A lady said to me that I met once in New York. She was vice president of this company. She made big money. I don't think she finished her high school education. She was still young, with a young family. And I said to her, "How did you get here? This is a tough business. You make big money. You didn't graduate from high school. What happened?" And she said, "Well, let me tell you part of the story." She said, "Years ago, one day I asked my husband for $10, and he said, 'What for?' She said by the end of that day, I had promised myself that I would never, ever ask for money again." And she said, "Yes, I am vice president. Yes, I do make big money. Yes, I am young. Yes, I did not graduate from high school." But she said, "I promise you, Mr. Rohn, from that day until this, I have never asked for money again." She said, "I started searching for opportunity, found it, started taking some classes, learned the skills, totally changed my life." I'm sure she would say that was one of the days that turned her life around.
There is a day, seemingly like any other, when everything changes. It's the day when you make the decisions once and for all to walk a new road toward the goals that until that fateful day have only been misty dreams. It's the day you say, "I've had it," with living a life of poor health, an empty bank account, and broken promises, where you're suddenly filled with the resolve to do whatever it takes to finally live the life you have always known you are capable of living. It's the day when you're filled with the awareness that time is precious and that each day that passes by unnoticed is like releasing a helium balloon into the sky. Soon it will be a distant memory, never to be seen again. It's the day you decide to seize those precious moments and make every one of them count. It's the day that turns your life around. Get ready for an unparalleled, life-changing experience in this all-new Nightingale Conant program, The Day That Turns Your Life Around, from master motivator and business philosopher Jim Rohn. At the young age of 25, Jim met his mentor, Mr. Earl Schoaf, who introduced him to a unique business opportunity in the world of network marketing. Not only did Mr. Schoaf mentor Jim on the lessons of building a remarkable business, he mentored him on building a remarkable life. The rest was history. Jim used the lessons he learned to turn away from a life of mediocre performance, broken dreams, and an empty bank account to incredible levels of wealth, both tangible and intangible, by the age of 31. It is now his sincere desire in this all-new program to help you do the same.
Yesterday I quoted the saying, "There's nothing so powerful as an idea whose time has come." Then I quoted it another way, "There's nothing so powerful as an idea that comes at the right time." So I said a little prayer before I left my hotel room today, and my prayer was, I hope today is one of those right times for many in my audience. And you never know when for someone it's the first time, or you're the first voice that sort of awakens a search for a better life, meaning, skills, disciplines, or you're one of many voices, or they've heard many before and now yours sort of comes on a day when the lights go on and they're never the same again.
In this program, you will hear Jim Rohn sharing ideas in a way you have never heard before. We had the unique experience of having a one-on-one conversation with Jim in the studio, reflecting on his business and life experiences. We have also included several live segments, mixing some of his classic recordings with some of his newest material. Presented with Jim's second-to-none inspirational style, the result is a program you'll never forget. Truly, the listening experience that follows could mark the day that turns your life around. Now, Jim begins the program by discussing the simple yet dramatic events of his own life-changing day.
Sometimes from a delightful experience or a tragic experience, it can be the day that changes everything. For me, it was the Girl Scout that knocked on my door when I was 25 years old and gave me the big presentation about Girl Scout cookies. And I wanted to buy. She said, it's only $2, several flavors. And with a big smile, she politely asked me to buy. And I wanted to. Big problem, I didn't have $2 in my pocket. So I didn't want to tell her that, right? I'm a grown man. I'm 25 years old. I've been to 1 year of college. I've got a little family going. So I decided next best to lie to her. I said, look, I've already got lots of Girl Scout cookies. I bought some, and we still haven't eaten all of them. They're in the house. She said, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. And she leaves. When she leaves, I say to myself, I don't want to live like this anymore. I mean, how low can you get, right? Lying to a Girl Scout, that's about as low as it gets. So I promised myself that day it would never happen again. And that was a life-changing day for me, recognizing that I was not in a good position. I must start making my search. A guy climbs the stairs, and there's about 40 stairs to climb, and he finally gets to the top, sits down, and he's out of breath. And he says, wow, this is not good. I've got to do something about my health. So it can be something that simple. So he starts a little research program and decides to get his health in order, develop a good nutritional program, whatever. And from that day on, he says, I'm not going to be out of breath anymore. One of my friends woke up one day, David, and he said, sitting at the yacht club, having a drink, sitting sort of in a fog, something spoke to him and said, what could you really have done if you hadn't have been in this condition the last 15, 20 years of your life? You know, he wasn't like an out-and-out alcoholic, but he just, he drank too much. And he started thinking about that. What could I have really accomplished? He wasn't bad enough to where he couldn't function. But he said that day when he thought back of what he really could have done if he hadn't have sort of stumbled around in a bit of a fog all those years, how his life would be. And he said from that day on he never touched another drink of alcohol. Then he died about 5 years after that. But his wife said to me that last 5 years were the greatest years of our marriage, when that one day he woke up and said, wow, this is not good. What could I have done if I hadn't have been sort of semi-conscious these last 15, 20 years? And that was a very special day for him. Sometimes it's a cataclysmic event. Sometimes it's that moment. Who can really explain it? Only the person it happens to, I guess, can really explain what that inner voice was that says, I'm on the wrong track here. I wonder what I could really do if I kicked this habit or got rid of this obsession. So those are the days that turn your life around.
While life-changing days can be as cataclysmic as never touching another drop of alcohol, or as simple as lying to a Girl Scout, every life-changing day holds something in common. They all involve an internal battle inside our own heads, a battle that must be won.
We live in a world where opposites are in conflict and we're in the middle. There's the pull to do good and the pull to do evil, to do what's right, and the pull to cross the line. That bit of warfare goes on even in our own head, our own consciousness. When I was a little kid growing up, I remember this cartoon of a little boy, and it showed this little boy with a little devil on one shoulder and a little angel on the other shoulder. The little devil said to the little boy, go ahead and do it, it'll be okay. It'll be fine, go ahead, go ahead. And the little angel saying, no, don't do it, don't do it. The little devil said, yes, go ahead. Little angel voice, no. And I guess that's part of our life experience. It's part of the adventure. The old prophet said, love good and hate evil. And if we become educated in that way, knowing when the voice of temptation is not the right road to take, we make some better choices. When I got up this morning, a little voice said, you really don't have to do your exercises today. You could skip today. You've got some work to do. And I got in at about 1 o'clock this morning on my airline flight from Colorado Springs. But as recently as this morning, the little voice said, you don't have to do them this morning. But I well know that if I postpone a day, sure enough, I've got to make up for it somewhere. Maybe do a modified version if I don't have quite enough time, but don't let it just go. But we all have that. That's fairly constant. what voice to listen to? I guess part of the answer is not to become a victim of yourself. Beware of the thief on the street that's after your purse, but also beware of the thief in your mind that's after your promise. The little thief in your head that says, you're too tall, you're too short, you've never done it before, it's not going to happen for you. Others can find this book, you can't find it. If you found it, you probably wouldn't read it. If you read it, you probably wouldn't understand it. This is a constant bit of warfare going on inside of our head. So we all have to deal with that. But what I call that in these experiences is the great adventure. It seems as though God has designed human life and his own existence as a bit of adventure. First creating all the angels according to the storyteller. And we might surmise, what was that for? Maybe he didn't want to be alone, or maybe he wanted to create some kind of adventure for himself. Made one of the angels, the storyteller says, the most famous, the most beautiful, the leader. And finally, Lucifer gathers up a third of the angels, makes a move on God's throne, loses, giving us a bit of insight, not much detail. I guess most of it's left to our imagination, which is probably what the storyteller wanted to create. Here's a few details and leave the rest to your imagination. So it seems like in the beginning, before the beginning, God, it seems, was interested in adventure. But I guess if you boil it down to something very simple, it says, would it be possible to win if you couldn't lose? And almost everybody says, well, no, it doesn't seem possible that you could win if you couldn't lose. So there has to be an adventure in order to have a victory, in order to have a win, in order to overcome, in order to create something of value. You must keep pulling positively against the negative forces, but that's what creates the adventure. If you took a football today and walked out to the football stadium, put it under your arm and crossed the goal line, would we all cheer and call it a touchdown? And the answer is no. It's not a touchdown until you face the 300-pounders who want to smash your face in the turf. And if you can muscle by them, dance by the secondary, cross the goal line, with the football under your arm, now we call it a touchdown, maybe a championship. But not without the conflict. But that's a good phrase. Opposites are in conflict and we're in the middle. And on any given day or occasion, that conflict can occur. There's an interesting Bible story that says there were two nice people, according to the storyteller, and it says, however. It's an interesting word, and that's where the adventure begins. However. One built his house on the rock, and the other built his house on the sand. Nice people can make foolish decisions about the future and then suffer the consequences, especially when the storm comes. So the key is to try your best. So many questions are not a matter of morality. It's a question of being careless or careful, being cautious rather than reckless. But not too cautious. So it's kind of an interesting challenge. If you were so cautious driving on a two-way highway, every time a car came your way, you were troubled about thinking whether or not he was going to stay on his side of the line, that you pulled off the road, wait for him to pass, then got back on the road and continued your journey. We would call that a bit too cautious. It may take you 2-3 days to get to your destination. So you say somehow when the traffic's coming your way on a two-way highway, you must trust at least the law of averages that says, I have a pretty good chance of arriving, even though there's not a guarantee that 1 out of 1,000 coming my way, I'll cross the line and it'll be the end. So we do have to be cautious, but not too cautious, and let those daily experiences lead us into a better life, a better month, a better year. I arrived on an airplane flight once, and the flight attendant came on and said, ladies and gentlemen, you have now completed the safest part of your journey. From now on, it gets dangerous. Fasten your seatbelt. I thought that was interesting. You've now completed the safest part of your journey. According to statistics, for the miles covered, it's the safest way to go. So now you have to be cautious but not overcautious, careful but not obsessively careful. Might be safer just to huddle in your house and stay home, but you can't do that. You have to get out and participate and trust that today the law of averages hopefully is going to work in my favor. I've got work to do, and let's go.
As Jim said, in order to win the battle in your own mind, you must trust the law of averages, that circumstances will work in your favor, and that your life-changing efforts will be rewarded. Well, there's an old saying that if you can't find the circumstances you want, it's up to you to make them. In this next live segment, Jim expands on this idea by showing you how to move beyond mere faith to begin the process of changing any area of your life. The key is to just begin.
Why would the farmer put the plow in the ground in the spring if he couldn't see the vision of the harvest when the summer is finished? Is it possible to see the finished harvest? And the answer is yes. We do that simply by faith. Key phrase, faith is the ability to see things that don't yet exist. And that's how things exist. How did this hotel get here? Someone saw it while the property was vacant. You say, well, is it possible to see this hotel when it isn't here? And the answer is yes, of course. If somebody cannot see it when it is not here, then it will never be here. So it's possible to see things that don't yet exist. Interesting. When should you start building this hotel? This is a good question for your philosophical musings. When should we start building the house? When should we start? And here's the answer. As soon as it's finished. You wouldn't start building the house until you had it finished. If you just started laying bricks and somebody came around and said, "What are you doing?" said, "I'm just laying bricks." And said, "What are you building?" And you said, "I have no idea." See, they'll take you away to a safe place. So have you got that now? It's possible to finish something before you start. In fact, it would be a bit foolish to start until you had it finished. So human beings have this remarkable ability to finish something and then start it. We've heard the old expression, don't count your chickens until they're hatched. Say, no, we have the ability to count our chickens long before they're hatched. Because we know, we have faith, we believe. We use the law of averages. There's bound to be at least so many. Out of every dozen, out of every 100, out of every 50. So it's possible to see the end and then begin. Start looking into the future of what you would like to accomplish and where you would like to go, the person you would like to be. And see if you can't get a better picture of the finished objective. See yourself there. See yourself in possession of. I was in business with Bob Cummings, the old movie star, for a while. He said, decide what you want and then act as if you already had it. And being an actor, he could give us a few tips on acting. Decide what you want and act as if it was already yours. Now, the reason we can act thinking that it's already ours is because not only can we vision the end results, we can also vision the beginning of making it real. So we don't start till it's finished, but it is possible for human beings to finish something before they start. Human beings are the only life on earth that has this incredible capacity to change the course of your life. No other life form can do that. Every other life form except humans seems to operate simply by instinct and the genetic code. In the winter, the goose flies south. How often? Answer, every winter. If you said to the goose, hey, it'd be better this year to go west, he ignores that advice. And the reason is because he cannot make choices and listen to advice of something that might be better. He has to obey instinct and the genetic code. But now jot this down, not human beings. Human beings can alter the course of their life. Human beings can live one way for 5 years, tear up that script, live a totally different way the next 5 years. The first 6 years of my economic life, I wound up broke. Second 6 years, I wound up rich. Someone says, how did you do that? Here's number one. I discovered I was not a goose. Someone says, don't you have to do the second 6 years like you did the first 6 years? And jot this down. No. No, you don't have to live the second 6 years like the first 6. You can use all the information and all the advice and repairing all of your mistakes and adopting a new and refined philosophy so that the next 6 years can be totally different than the last 6. No other life form can do this. See, if you were a tree, you'd be stuck. As a tree, if you used up all the nourishment that was around you and you couldn't change location, see, you would die. But that's not true. Human beings can change location, go north, south, east, west, live here for a while, live somewhere else for a while. So that's a note to make. You can greatly alter the course of your life. Now here's the next note to make. 5 years from now, you will arrive. The question is where? This is for mature people now. If you keep up your present disciplines and keep up the present pace that you're on, where will you be in 5 years? Boy, it's easy to say, hey, I haven't really thought about that. So now make this note. In 5 years, here's the probability. You will either arrive at a well-designed destination or an undesigned destination. Well-designed or undesigned. And I promise you, 5 years from now, you really don't want to arrive at an undesigned destination. Because you may very well wind up wearing what you don't want to wear, driving what you don't want to drive, living where you don't want to live, maybe doing what you don't want to do. Simply because you didn't design a better destination. Key phrase, up front, the decisions are easy. Now, sometimes after we've lived a few years, now to repair our mistakes and get back on track seems like a tough job. If you've messed up your health for 10 years, I'm telling you, it takes more than 10 days to get it back. But here's the key, and it's so exciting to talk to the teenagers. Make the note. If you start early, the fortune belongs to you. If you start early. All fortunes that are available to humans, if you start early, the promise looms large and the odds are heavy in your favor. Now, yes, it's possible to do some radical things starting late and still arrive with some good treasures and some good things. But when you haven't got that much time left, now sometimes the decision has to be so drastic people are not willing to make it and they're too tired and too weary and too ill. And say, look, I don't have much time left. It's not going to happen for me anyway. It's easy to take that attitude. But everyone here, we've got the time over the next 10 years. We've got the time the next 20 years. We've got the time the next 30 years to make some repair now in our errors of the past and set up some new disciplines. And I'm telling you, that's going to change everything. So, 5 years from now, I wish for you to arrive at a well-designed place. A place of productivity. A place that'll make you feel good about yourself. A place that'll give you honor and respect. A place that'll give you influence to touch other people 5 years from now that you couldn't do today. Where will you be in 5 years? Key phrase, we go the direction we face. We go the direction we face. If you start designing something at the end of this direction, sure enough, you will start going the direction you face. And we face the direction we design. Next phrase. Direction determines destination. Destination is not determined by hope. It's not determined by wish. Destination is determined by direction. You cannot change destination overnight. You cannot change destination overnight. Which means you can't arrive at a 5 years from now place tomorrow. But here's what you can change today and overnight. You can change direction. And it is so fascinating what a little small change of direction will do. Let's say that you're here and you're headed this way. And 5 years from now, you'll wind up here. But here's how we individually can arrive at a new destination. Maybe right now by discipline or lack of discipline or direction you're headed this way. But it wouldn't take much to change direction and head this way. So that in 5 years, you wind up here instead of here. And the difference now of getting off this track and getting on this track is not much. A few decisions in discipline, a few decisions in learning, a few decisions in change of behavior, change of habit, a few decisions in setting goals that you've sort of let drift before. Like I did at age 25, didn't have a list. I immediately started to change that. And I immediately started to change my direction so that very quickly I started heading this direction. In less than 7 years, I was a millionaire. And that was just my economics. And sure enough, when I met my mentor, I was headed this way. And here's where I would have been in 5 or 6 years. Maybe okay. My kids probably wouldn't have been starving. And maybe, we got clothes to wear and a place to live. But the joy of productivity and the joy of becoming valuable to the marketplace and more valuable to my family and valuable to my friends in my inner circle, all of that probably would have escaped me if I would have kept going this way. But I am so thankful for the circumstances and whatever else arranged it for me. Some things are arranged, we don't even know how they've occurred. For you to be here, do you imagine the chain of circumstances that caused you to be able to sit in this auditorium today? It's amazing. This had to happen, and this had to happen, and this door had to close, and this door had to open. And all of those things, for me to be here, for you to be here, I just didn't drop out of the sky, right? And you arrived here from all kinds of directions. Here we are. And so we just say, wow, part of that's a mystery, and we let it be a mystery. We don't even try to figure it out. We just say, wow, it's incredible. But now that we're here, how could we collectively and individually affect each other's lives? It's by doing just what we've done. Study, learn, teach, shake hands, trade stories, and do all the stuff. So that we can help other people as well as ourselves to make that small journey to a new direction. So jot that down. It's only a small journey to a new direction. Guess how quickly you can change your health? By starting to eat an apple a day. Mama said an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Let's say you've been ill long enough and you've had health problems long enough and you say, that's it. That's over. I'm going to now start a program. You don't have to really revolutionize your whole health life. Just start with an apple a day. You say, well, is it that simple to change your health life? And the answer is yes. The key is just to start. You pick up a book on good health and you get halfway through the book and it says, now, dear reader, set this book aside, fall down on the floor and see how many push-ups you can do. And then it goes on to say, and if you have not done that, why not give this book away? It looks like you're not going to do it. Come on, you don't have to radically do something. You can gain momentum and make changes as you go. Just start. Here's what happens when you start a new direction. Self-esteem starts to accelerate. It doesn't take much for you to feel good about yourself. Just committed to a new direction and you feel good. And an apple a day, committed to finally having a health program that'll make you the healthiest you've ever been in the next 20 years, all you got to do is munch on that first apple. And nobody even has to be around you, and you don't have to announce it to the world. But you munch on that first apple and say, this is the beginning of developing a health program that's going to make me so healthy I'll have the vitality to do whatever I want to do for the next 30 years of my life. Munch, munch, happy, happy, self-esteem off the scale. Now, if you eat an apple the second day, you become almost delirious, saying, wow, I'm on my way. Somebody said, just 2 apples? Says, look, you don't understand. Not only did I do it yesterday, I've done it again today. This is really proving to myself with no audience, no microphones, no nothing, just you and yourself. You've convinced yourself, I'm on my way to the healthiest I ever have been. I'm starting a new life. This is the second day. I'm on my way. That's how easy it is to change your life. You don't need some dramatic vision. Just begin something. And maybe by health or by whatever other things we can think of to do, you just get back on a better track. Okay? It's a small journey to changing direction.
tell the story of Lydia Cologne, who started her business with $1. When she made her first sale, she didn't have any product to deliver. She had to take the customer's money, go get the product, come back and deliver it. But she said, when I figured out how to do that, she said, my ambition soared. Not at the end of the year of some major, huge accomplishment, but just at the end of one struggle with ingenuity to try to figure out, I've showed this person this brochure, they want the products, I've got to tell them my story why I don't have any. I'll get the products, deliver, make a small profit. She figured that out. And she said, just that occasion, which is probably not more than 30, 40 minutes long, and her ambition soared. She just simply said, if I did this once, I can do it again. And then I can do it again. So it doesn't take some huge year-long project of achievement for your ambition to soar or your confidence to catch fire. All it takes is some attention to detail, figure out something, use your ingenuity, let your skill level reach up to meet what ambition you have at the moment, and sure enough, then it all changes. The day you say, I'm going to change my health with my diet and all the rest, and I've heard that an apple a day keeps the doctor away, why not start with an apple? And the day you start with that first apple, your attitude can change, your self-esteem can change, and you can honestly say, I'm on my way. I'm never going to be the same again. I'm not going to walk the old road anymore. I'm going a new way. It just doesn't take much. An apple can do it. Something simple that you commit to and do it, and you can say, I'm starting to make the changes. I posed an interesting question. I said, could a young boy, 8, 9 years old, buy a bottle of soap for $2 and sell it for $3? They all agreed that yes, he could. Go next door, say, Ms. Brown, I've got this soap, Mom, use it. It's the best. She says you'll get great results. It's only $3. And Ms. Brown says, well, Johnny, I've got plenty of soap. And he says, you better let me come in and check. You don't have to teach kids sales, right? I mean, they're automatic salesmen. But they all agreed that a child could take $2 and buy a bottle of soap and then go sell it for $3. Now I said this poses some interesting questions. Here's the first question. Will he do it? Someone says, well, that remains to be seen. Even if he could, the answer is, will he? And that's true for all of us. We all could, but will we? Then I said it poses another question. Should he do it? That's a good debate. So they all agreed that we eliminated whether or not he could and started talking about whether or not he should or whether or not he will, which always remains to be seen. Interesting. It's not a matter of whether or not we can. Average person of average intelligence living in this incredible country can become financially independent in a fairly reasonable amount of time. The question is not whether or not they can. The question is whether or not they will. Then the big question is whether or not they should. And someone says, well, you should if you could. But that doesn't answer everybody's life. It said the sower went out to sow the seed, and sure enough, finally the seed falls on good ground, but some of the good ground produced 30%, some 60%, some 100%. And we say, why is that? Well, it seems like that's just the way things are. You say, well, couldn't the ones doing 30%, couldn't they do 100%? Well, maybe they could, but should they, or will they? It remains to be seen. Everything after the fact we can always figure out. He could have, but he didn't. We can always figure that out later. He perhaps should have, but he didn't. Someone says, well, sales would never appeal to me, so I couldn't buy a bottle of soap for $2 and sell it for $3. But what if you had to support your family? You say, well, I probably could figure out how to do it if I had to. So it's amazing how little money and how easy the answer is to solving problems, earning money, making money, doing better. Everybody can, but not everybody will. So here's what I called it. The magic and the mystery. The magic is you could start at the bottom and go to the top. The mystery is, why wouldn't everybody do that? That's what the storyteller does most of the time, leaves so much to our imagination. I wonder why that is. That's good for conversation. What's unique, though, living in our country, there's so much example everywhere of what ambition can do, properly channeled, that it hardly leaves anyone with an excuse not to at least maybe try. Or you certainly have to give up on the fact, know that it can't be done, which is not true. It is possible to start with $1 and become a millionaire. It is possible. It is possible to start with nothing and become something.
So at this point, Jim has established the fact that the process of life change is not a matter of ability. It is merely a matter of will. Everyone can, but not everyone will. Make the decision right now to be one of the ones who will. Stand apart from your life as a painter might as he surveys his work of art, and choose the area of your life where you know that you need to walk a new road. Now, if you've got that area in mind, Jim will conclude this session by giving you steps to transformation and bringing together everything he's discussed thus far. He calls it How to Turn Nothing into Something.
I've been doing a subject recently. Here's the title of it: How to Turn Nothing into Something. How to turn nothing into something. And here's a little gist of what I've been covering. First, to turn nothing into something, you start with ideas and imagination. Now, it's hard to call ideas and imagination nothing. How tangible are ideas and imagination? It's a bit of a mystery. So you can't really call ideas that can be turned into a hotel, ideas that can be turned into an enterprise, ideas that can be turned into the Salk vaccine, ideas that can be turned into miracle products, ideas. You couldn't really call the idea nothing. It must have some kind of substance. And imagination can't really be nothing. We call it nothing because it isn't tangible. It isn't like a podium. It isn't that real. But it is almost real. So to turn nothing into something, you start with ideas and imagination. Interesting. Ideas that become so powerful in your mind and your consciousness, they seem real to you even before they become tangible. Imagination that is so strong that you can actually see it. You can actually see it. When I built my first home for my family in Idaho all those years ago, before I started construction on this home, I used to take my friends and associates out to the vacant property and take them on a tour through the house. Is that possible? Is it possible to take someone on a tour through an imaginary house? And the answer is yes. I used to say, this is the 3-car garage. And the guy would look and say, yes, this garage will hold 3 cars. Right? I mean, I could really make it real, make it live. I would take them on a tour through the house. Here's the fireplace. And this fireplace is brick on one side and it's stone on the other side. I could make it real. Here's the rest of the house. Here's the kitchen with this view window. And they would look out the window as I took them on this tour. One day I made this house so real, one of my friends bumped his elbow on the fireplace. I mean, it was that real. So imagination, we call it nothing simply because nothing in terms of being tangible, but it is so real it's almost real. So the first step is to imagine the possibilities. Imagine the possibilities. One of the reasons for seminars and sermons and the lyrics from songs and testimonials of others is to give us an idea of the possibilities. To imagine the possibilities. Now here's the second step of turning nothing into something. And that is to believe that what you imagine is possible for you. To believe that what you imagine is possible for you. And we become supported by testimonials that say something like, if I can do it, you can do it. And we start believing that. First, we imagine what's possible. Second, we start to believe that what's possible is possible for us. We might also believe because of our own testimonial. Here's what our testimonial might say. If I did it once, what? I could do it again. If it happened for me before, it could very well happen again. So we believe not only the testimonials of others who say, if I can do it, you can do it. If I can change, you can change. If I can start with nothing, you can start with nothing. If I can turn it all around, you can turn it all around. Then we also have the support of our own testimonial. If we've accomplished something before, if we did it once, we can do it again. If we did it last year, we could do it this year. So those two things are very powerful. Now, they're not actual substance, although they're very close. One is to imagine the possibilities. Two is to imagine that what's possible is possible for you. Here's what we call that second step, faith to believe. In fact, one writer said this: faith is substance. An interesting word, that the powerful ability to believe in the possibilities that are possible for you. If you have faith to believe, that faith is substance. Substance meaning a piece of the real. Now, it's not the real, it's not the podium, but it is so powerful that it's so close to being real. So the writer said the faith is a piece of, the substance of, and then he called it evidence, substance and evidence. So it's difficult to call substance and evidence nothing. It is nothing in the sense that it can't be seen except with the inner eye. You can't get a hold of it because it isn't yet tangible. But it is possible to turn nothing, especially ideas and imagination. Now, if you believe that it's possible for you, that substance and evidence becomes so powerful that it now can be turned into reality. So the first step is to imagine what's possible. Second step, to believe that what's possible is possible for you. Now here's the third step, and that is to go to work and make it real. You go to work and make it a podium. You go to work and make it a hotel. You go to work and make it an enterprise. You go to work and make it good health. You go to work and make it an association. You go to work and make it a good marriage. You now go to work and make it a movement. You make it tangible. You make it viable. You breathe life into it. And then you construct it. That is such a powerful ability for all of us as human beings. I just wanted to take the time to drop that in before I move on to so many other subjects. How to turn nothing into something. Now, here's the last part. It takes the disciplined activity to turn nothing into something finally. Faith without the activity serves no useful purpose. But faith invested into the activity creates reality. Once I understood that, I knew then it was possible to build a career. I knew it was possible to build good health. I knew it was possible to build a relationship. I knew I could participate in the constructing of valuable things, valuable enterprises, valuable things that would help and benefit other people. I knew I could be part of it, and I knew I could do it once I understood this formula. So here's the last part now. Appreciate now the disciplines that turns imagination into reality. Because without the disciplines, it doesn't work. The discipline is the last piece of the miracle process. The last piece of the miracle process is to do the work. To do the work of good health. To do the work of a relationship. To do the work of building this hotel.
In the first session, you learned about the immense power that a single day holds for turning any area of your life around. And you discovered that the journey to an entirely new life destination begins with surprisingly small actions mixed with faith. In this session, Jim will get much more specific as he outlines the exact emotions and philosophies that are the major ingredients of a recipe we call a new life. He begins by discussing a negative emotion that, if channeled properly, can lead to incredibly positive results.
Disgust is one. My little story about the Girl Scout, I don't want to live like this anymore. It was traumatic for me. It was a traumatic day for me. I'm a grown man. I have been to college 1 year. I've got a little family going. And I don't have $2 in my pocket. I wasn't destitute, but I was behind on my bills, and once in a while getting a notice saying, "You told us the check was in the mail," those embarrassing moments. But that was sort of the climax that day when I said, this is not the way to live. So whatever it is, disgust. One of the big days that changes your life is decision making. I'm not going to be the same anymore. I'm not going to walk that road anymore. I don't want to be embarrassed anymore. I've been on my knees for the last time. That's big time. Those decisions that sometimes last for a lifetime. Some decisions are incremental. You make a decision to start the process, which is valuable. And then later you make the decision to continue. That felt good. That got good results. Why not continue? When I really started revolutionizing, especially my economic life starting at age 25, the early success locked me in for a lifetime. I got such great early returns. I don't mean overnight, but at the end of the first week, at the end of the first month, I started a little part-time adventure, age 25. That's available to all of us. So disgust, I've had it. That's a powerful emotion. I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to feel like this anymore. This is the last day. That's powerful. Then the day you decide to make the changes, do something different. I decided to read the books. I started a program of reading. Now I've got one of the best libraries probably of anyone that I know of. Life-changing decisions that last a lifetime. Then I think on some of that we need a little help, a little association. Two of the most powerful words in the world are, let's go do it. It's powerful to say, I'm going to do it, but it's even more powerful to say, let's go do it. Sometimes if you want to change your health, that's a good thing, to say, let's do it together. Let's meet every Tuesday and every Thursday morning at Denny's and talk it over. How are you doing? Here's how I'm doing. How are you doing? I think that's valuable. Let's do it. Let's get better educated. I'll read a book between now and Wednesday. You read a book, and we'll get together and talk about both books. Okay, let's do it. See, where by yourself you may not do it. But if you had somebody like-minded, what's that ancient phrase says? If two or three agree on a common purpose, nothing is impossible. It doesn't take 2,000 or 3,000 or 200 or 300. If just 2 or 3 says, let's walk a higher road, let's do it, let's pull it off. The inspiration of camaraderie, working together, I've always used that. All of my enterprises, since I was 25 years old, have all been multiple, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. Let's do it. So powerful. Resolve says, do it or die. I'll do it until the results start to come. And it's always resolve with willing to face the unknown. Yes, I said I was going to do it or die, but later, here's what I discovered. So then you have to sort of rearrange, right? It's like planting corn in an acre of ground, and it never does come up. It never does come up. Somebody said, well, just keep on planting. Maybe you need a new acre. So maybe it isn't just persistence and do it or die. I'll plant every spring, by gosh, until I have a crop. Have you ever considered maybe you need a new acre to plant in? So that means, like later discovery says, wow, I've been at this now 3 years, nothing's happening. then you say, I know I said I was going to do it or die, but I've got some better information now. I need to go a new road, try a new acre.
While emotions provide the fuel that launches your journey of life change, it's your philosophy of life that provides the foundation of that journey. Jim Rohn had to make several philosophical changes himself when he began to walk a new road at age 25. These same philosophies can also make a big difference in your life.
Now I want to pass it along to you, some of the philosophies that changed my life forever. Here's the first one. Profits are better than wages. Once I understood that, I got rich. Profits are better than wages. Nobody taught me that in high school. I went to college for a year and a half and never heard it. I'm 25 and broke. I'm not destitute. I'm broke. Too much month at the end of the money is broke. And I finally hear this philosophy. Profits are better than wages. Now here's the phrase that goes with it. Wages make you a living, which is fine. Profits make you a fortune, which is super fine. And you can live both fine and super fine. You've now got the mechanism and the ways and means to do that. Profits are better than wages. Guess what? I taught this in Moscow when I was teaching capitalism. The communists had it all wrong. They taught that capitalism was, a big company that oppresses its workers. It was absolutely ridiculous. They had mentally lost it when they came up with this ridiculous philosophy. Communism taught capital belongs to the state, not the people. And we taught all these years what? Capital belongs in the hands of the people, not the state. That's why, of course, kids should pay taxes, because they can be capitalists, and all capitalists should pay taxes. And it doesn't take much to start an enterprise that makes a profit. I teach kids how to have two bicycles, one to ride and one to rent. How long does it take? How long does it take to make a profit? A little ingenuity and you're on your way. So profits are better than wages. Capitalism better than communism. Communism said people are too dumb and stupid to know what to do with capital. So you must take capital away from all the dumb, stupid people and give it to the all-wise, all-knowing state. And let the state run everything. That was communism. And they devastated every country they touched. I've been to East Germany. It's taking $1 trillion just to clean up East Germany. They've already spent $500 billion. They got $500 billion more to go. Every country they touched, and I've been in all of them, they devastated them all with their devastating philosophy. We teach capital belongs in the hands of the people. That's where the ingenuity is to bring goods and services to the marketplace. But once I understood this now, it was so incredible. Profits are better than wages. Now, when I first was recruited, I'm a distributor for this little product called Abunda Vita. And here's what my mentor said, Mr. Schoaf. He said, Mr. Rohn, you can start this miracle working business part-time. You don't have to go full-time, you can start part-time. And he said, if you'll devote, to start with, let's say 10, 12, 15 hours a week, where you'll start making a profit, here's what you can now say. I'm working full-time on my job and part-time on my fortune. Because profits lead to fortune. I got so excited about that philosophy. I'm working full-time on my job, but now I'm working part-time on my fortune. I found a way not only to make a living, you won't believe this, I found a way to make a fortune. Can you imagine what that's like then to get up in the morning? To go to work on your fortune? Not to go to work to pay the rent, which is okay, but a chance to go to work to make a fortune? And I said, right now I'm working part-time on my fortune and full-time on my job, but it won't be long until I'll be working full-time on my fortune. Can you imagine what life is going to be like? Now, here was my first goal when I started, and that was part-time. I wanted to equal on my profits part-time what I was earning on my full-time job. This is called the magic of part-time. It is so thrilling for people to start working the business part-time, because now you can work on profits, and it doesn't take very long. If you'll really concentrate on those 10, 12, 15 hours a week, it won't be long if you really do it right and learn some of the skills I'm going to talk about. It won't be long until you can be earning as much part-time working on your fortune as you are full-time working on your job. I did that in less than 6 months. Now I've got an incredible invitation. I found a way part-time to work on my fortune, and I'm making as much money at that as I am on my full-time job. Would you like to hear my story? It was incredible. Now here was my second goal, to make twice as much money part-time working on my fortune as I was working full-time on my job. And I reached that in less than a year. Making twice as much money part-time working on my fortune as I was full-time working on my job. Now I've got an incredible invitation that won't quit. I found a way, through a unique opportunity, to work part-time on my fortune, and I'm now earning twice as much money as I am working full-time on my job. Would you like to hear my story? Do you imagine anybody would say, "No, I don't care to hear your story"? No. Everybody I said that to said, "Wow, yes, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm glad you asked. Let me tell you." Now, when I started making twice as much money part-time as full-time, here's my dilemma. I didn't want to go full-time. And why not go full-time? And the reason was because I didn't want to give up my electrifying story. Right? It was so powerful, nobody could resist the invitation to at least take a look. I didn't want to give it up. And I hung on for I don't know how long until it was, almost insane. And then finally, reluctantly, I gave up my full-time job. But now you can imagine the thrill and excitement of going to work full-time on my fortune. It was incredible. Here's the next one. Philosophy that helped change my life. It's not what happens that determines your life future. It's not what happens that determines your life future. It's what you do about what happens. All of us are in like a little sailboat. And it's not the blowing of the wind that determines your destination. It's the set of the sail. So jot this phrase down. It's one of the best to understand. Kids need to understand it. The same wind blows on us all. The wind of disaster, the wind of opportunity, the wind of change. The wind when it's upside down, the wind when it's favorable and unfavorable. The same wind blows on us all. The economic wind, the social wind, the political wind. The same wind blows on everybody. The difference in where you arrive in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, the difference in arrival is not the blowing of the wind, but the set of the sail. And that's what learning is all about. To set a better sail this year than last year. To set a better sail. The first 6 years of my economic life, I wound up broke. Second 6 years, I wound up rich. You say, well, the Democrats must have finally gotten power. No. It was not a political change. Here's what changed the second 6 years of my economic life. It was my philosophy that changed. The set of the sail of better thinking, correcting the errors of the past and picking up new disciplines for the future. That's all I had to do at the end of the first 6. Correct the errors of the past and then pick up some new disciplines for the future. And my total life changed. The second 6 years was totally different than the first 6 of my working life. And guess who can do that? Anybody. Now you can keep on the same path for the next couple of years as you have the past 2. But if you wish to, and maybe everything's okay for you and you don't need to, but if you need to make some changes, I'm telling you, you can start doing it today so that the next 2 years will be drastically different than the last 2. And anybody who wishes to do that can. And you can do it between ages 40 and 43. You can do it between ages 13 and 15. You can do it between ages 60 and 62. Any 2 years, any 5 years that you wish to drastically change from the previous 5, you can do it. If you wish to. Now, this isn't written. This is not a law. Here's what it's called. Opportunity. But if you don't know you can change, if you don't know you can drastically change your income, change your future, change your health, change your marriage, change everything. If you don't know that, Some people then go year after year after year after year not making much change simply because they didn't get to the class. They never read the book. They never went to the seminar. They never made the discovery. They didn't seek for the knowledge of how could I make my life better. And if you just rock along, I'm telling you it's okay. Anybody can live any way they choose, but I'm here to tell all of you that if you wish to, it's possible to make the next 3 years totally different than the last 3. And all you have to do is just a few things. So if you got that one now, it's not the blowing of the wind that determines your income. It's not the blowing of the wind that determines your fortune. It's the set of the sail. And that's why we gathered here today. Maybe I've got some ideas that'll help you with a couple of little things about setting the sail of your thinking that might drastically give you multiplied more benefit the next 3 years than you've gotten in the last 3. So it's not what happens. What happens to everybody. Chevron years ago brought me in to talk to management. They said, Mr. Rohn, you travel around the world and you're fairly knowledgeable. What do you think the next 10 years are going to be like? I said, gentlemen, I can tell you I do know the right people. So they all leaned forward and listened carefully. And I said, gentlemen, the next 10 years are going to be about like the last 10. The next season after fall is... I promise you that's not going to change. After day comes night. I promise you that's not going to change. Here's how the last 6,000 years reads. If you want to make a note of Jim Rohn's vision of history the last 6,000 years, here's how it reads. Opportunity mixed with difficulty. It's going to read like that, looks like, for the next 6,000 years. Opportunity mixed with difficulty. Now, sometimes there seems to be more opportunity than difficulty, and then sometimes there seems to be more difficulty than opportunity, but the mix isn't going to change. After expansion comes recession. But after recession comes expansion. Not to think so, see, is naive. And once you've got just a little of this stuff settled, then you know exactly what to do. You know exactly what to anticipate, so you can be ready. Now, here's the next one. Here's what it says. For things to change, you have to change. I was hoping the government would change and taxes would change and economics would change and my boss would change and be more generous. I wished for everything to change. And my teacher said, no, Mr. Rohn, for things to change for you, you have to change. Don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better. Once I understood this, this altered the course of my life. Don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better. And here's the big one. Don't wish for less problems. Wish for more skills. You don't need less problems. You simply need more skills. Don't wish for less challenge. Wish for more wisdom. Accept the challenge, because you can't grow without a challenge. You can't get rich without a challenge. You can't fly without gravity. You have to understand the challenge. But that's the key, is to now develop wisdom to overcome the challenge. Don't wish for less challenge, but more wisdom. And then here's one more philosophy that helped change my life forever. You can do the most remarkable things no matter what happens. Humans can do the most remarkable things no matter what happens. Philosophies that changed my life.
To complete your life-changing recipe, there are a few other critical ingredients that can make the difference. A remarkable attitudinal quality and 2 heartfelt questions.
I think one is curiosity, wanting to know. And of course that starts early, but it's a good thing to keep going all of your life, to be curious about what's happening, curious about human beings, curious about the setup, curious about human behavior, be curious about yourself, be curious about government, politics, society, banking, money, Army, Navy, taxes, what makes things work, what makes a city work, what makes a government work. I remember years ago someone mentioned Russia might conquer China. I said, if you conquered China, what the heck would you do with it? Trying to comprehend how the world works, trying to comprehend how
I remember going to Manhattan for the first time. I was so awestruck. This huge city, and one thing came to my mind was, how does this city work? How does everything get in? How does everything get out? And how does everybody get fed? And when you have a salad, the lettuce is fresh. And I thought, how does this happen? You know, it's a miracle how the city works. It's a miracle how the country works. How does an economy work, right? So that it stays on a steady course. And it's amazing. But if you keep that kind of curiosity going, and then simply be curious about your relationships with other people, yourself sitting at the conference table, be curious about how you could get into the inner circle where they talk about incredible things that affect, business, commerce, society, and the world. And I think that's probably number one's curiosity. I think probably what served Tony Robbins, who attended my seminars all those years ago, the attitude was an incredible, insatiable appetite for learning. And I think if you've got that, that's it. That's part of curiosity. You just want to know. So reading the books was no problem. Going to the library was no problem. Going to class and taking notes was no problem. Then I think the third one was to immediately start putting some of it into action. Not to wait till you know it all, but to do what you know and let the rest be unfolded and revealed. The illustration is, on a foggy night, if you can only see 100 feet, if you walk that 100 feet, now you can see another 100 feet. Take it a bit at a time. But for those components that really start someone on the road to success, I think that's it. Curiosity, appetite for learning, and willingness to put it all into activity right away. Then probably willingness to take constructive criticism, not put down, but criticism. It's okay, but here's another way to consider. If you just added this, I'm telling you, it'd make you twice as powerful. Somebody says, wow, I'll consider that. So there's unique ways to say it, and then there's, the blundering ways to say it. But if you can get people to give them credit for what they're already doing, add a few more things, a bit of refinement, that's it. People willing to accept that kind of constructive analysis of how they're doing. Those are some good components.
I asked two good questions, I think, that are really vital, especially for mature people. Number one, what's got you turned on? Question number two, what's got you turned off? Two excellent questions. Food for thought. Years ago, shortly after I met Earl Schoaf, I finally found out what had me turned off, and I got that cured. And I got enough reasons to get turned on. And from that day until this, no one has ever said to me, when are you going to get going? When are you going to get off the couch? When are you going to get started? I've never heard that since I was 25 years old. Once the fires were lit for me, they've never gone out. I've gone through my challenges from rich to broke and back to rich, and I've been through it all. But I've never had someone say, you got to get up from here and you got to get going. Never. And I don't really know how to teach it, and I really don't know how to explain it. All I know is if it ever happens, it's one of the great experiences of a lifetime. Get enough reasons to turn you on. And then just keep adding some more so that you never lack for emotional or physical vitality and spiritual strength to just keep going, to make your life as good as you can, go as far as you can, earn as much as you can, share as much as you can, be as much as you can to the people you love and care about, live as well as you can. If you once develop that thirst and the zest. But it's interesting. What's got you turned off and what's got you turned on? See if you can't cut loose from the stuff that's got you turned off. Maybe it's negative attitude. Maybe it's poor thinking. Maybe it's doomsday thinking. The whole world is going to the dogs anyway. Why try? A good sermon or lyrics of a song, conversation with somebody of value might help you turn that kind of attitude around. Like, it's never going to happen for me. Why not? Can a boy 8, 9 years old buy a bottle of soap for $2 and sell it for $3? And say, yes, he probably could. Say, then that means everyone has an answer. Doesn't matter who it is. Everyone can. Not everyone will, but everyone can. and there's no reason why you can't.
One of the biggest mistakes people make as they begin a new program of changing any aspect of their lives is moving forward too fast without sufficient forethought. It's similar to trying to drive to a destination by getting in your car and speeding away with no map to guide you. If you're not careful, you'll end up nowhere fast. In the next 2 sessions, Jim wants to make sure that you don't make this critical mistake. Ultimately, if we want to change our lives for the better, we must give careful consideration to all of our values and assure their preservation as we pursue our goals. In other words, we must consciously make a life, not just a living. Jim Rohn learned this critical lesson firsthand.
Some things I went for in the beginning, I was so ambitious. Once I met Mr. Schoaf, found some new ideas that were life-changing. Profits are better than wages. It helped me become wealthy. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. I'd never heard of that before. Success is something you attract by becoming an attractive person. It's not something you pursue. Wow. Those things really revolutionized my life. And I got so excited about now becoming successful. I knew then I was going to become wealthy and successful. But I think I was a bit overambitious. Some things I went for in the beginning cost me too much. If I'd have known what it was going to cost, I wouldn't have paid. But sometimes you just don't know till after. You think, oh, this is it, this is it. Sure enough, when you finally acquire it or reach that position, you look back and say, wow, I spent too much time, too much money. I let go some values that really are important to me that I forgot about or misjudged what it was going to cost. So I think we always have to look into the future and say, what do I want and what's that going to cost?
There's 2 great words of antiquity everybody should learn. Here they are. One's positive and one's negative. And we studied a bit about that yesterday. Positive, negative. Here's the positive word from antiquity. Behold. That's the positive word. Behold the possibilities. Behold the opportunity. Behold the future and give it design. Behold and look at the chances you've got. Behold, spring has come. Behold, the day has arrived. And the sun is shining and the shadows are fleeing away. Behold, the next person you can meet might be your friend for life. Behold, the next person might be a colleague forever. Behold, that's the positive word, behold. Now, here's the negative word, beware. And now I want to give you a sentence to jot down that's very valuable. Here's what it is. Beware of what you become in pursuit of what you want. Beware. All of our lives we have to deal with behold and beware. When a kid goes to school, it's behold the opportunity and beware the dangers. Behold and beware. So beware of what you become, pursuing what you want. Some things I went for in the very beginning cost me too much. I got so obsessed with some things that I found out later the price was too big to pay. If I would have known better, I never would have paid. But sometimes we learn when? After. So don't become so obsessed with something that you lose your sense of reason or it costs you your friends. Don't be so obsessed with something that you compromise your virtues and your values. The story says Judas got the money. You say, well, that's a success story. No. It's true, 30 pieces of silver was a sizable sum of money, but it was not a success story. His name was Judas. Doesn't that ring a bell? It makes all the difference in the world. Judas got the money. Here's something interesting about the story of Judas. After he got the money, he was unhappy. Someone says, well, if you had a fortune in your hand, why would you be unhappy? And here's the key. He was not unhappy with the money. He was unhappy with himself. Here's a key phrase. The greatest source of unhappiness is self-unhappiness. It's not from outside the things that make us unhappy. The greatest devastating unhappiness is to be unhappy with yourself. Now, a mild form of unhappiness is constructive. The desperate form of unhappiness is destructive. It's like worry. We should all worry a little, but not let it destroy our lives. If you're in New York about to step off the curb in downtown Manhattan and the yellow taxi's coming, best you worry enough to get your feet back up on the curb, lest you get yourself wiped out. So it's called caution, but not undue caution. It's called fear and worry, but not the worry that kills you, not the worry that destroys you. It's like hate. You don't need to hate your job. Save your hate for the important things like evil, like the weeds that attack your garden, like the diabolical ideas that try to entice your children. Right? You don't need to hate everything. I hate this, I hate that. That's the misuse of your hate. Save it for the things we really must hate. But this is so important now to beware. Judas was so unhappy, he tried to take the money back. They said, heck with you, we got what we wanted, you got what you wanted, out. They threw him out with his money. Now he becomes so desperate, he goes out and hangs himself for what he did. He became a traitor. So that's the caution now. If Judas could speak back to us in any kind of clear language, here's what he might say. Beware of what you become in pursuit of what you want. Don't sell out. It's not worth it.
The whole balance, I think, is important all of your life. For our kids, so much learning and so much play and so much education and so much time off. And you have to just not overload kids with too much time to learn. A little change of pace. Back when I went to school, we called it recess, right? You can't stay at it, like hour after hour. You have to take a little break and take some time. But it's true as an entrepreneur. It's true in a sales career. It's true for a minister of a church. Whatever you're in is to find that balance of working hard so that the job gets done, but also taking the time. I used to work hard and think, wow, I should have my family on the beach. And then I'd take my family to the beach, and at the beach I'm saying, wow, I should be at the office. So you just have to learn to say, when you're at the office, do the office stuff. When you get to the beach, forget the office for a while. And that balance is important. It's important in good health, right? They had this diet that said high carbohydrate is the way to go, right? Sure enough, it wasn't. Now it's all finally turned around, and we know a lot more. And it's called high protein, low carbohydrate, and all the rest. So you just have to keep up with whatever's happening. Be a student, not necessarily a follower. You pick up a book on nutrition. This one says, if you do this, you'll live forever. You pick up the second book, and it says, if you do what that first book says, you'll die young. And then the question is, what should I do? Which book should I follow? You say, no, read them both and then make up your own mind. Be a student, not a follower.
Beware of what you become in pursuit of what you want. Be a student and not a follower. These are two classic Jim Rohn quotes that have served his legion of seminar attendees over the years in fashioning a high-quality life based on following their own inner voice. Another classic concept from Jim is his idea of enlightened self-interest. Now, many people think that self-interest of any kind is incompatible with an enlightened, high-quality life that serves others. Yet, with a little explanation, Jim is sure he can convince you otherwise.
The best way I can care for you is to care for myself. The best gift I can give you is the gift of my personal development. If I become 10 times wiser, 10 times stronger, 10 times more capable, think of what that will do for our friendship. The first self-interest is to survive. I do an interesting thing now on the instructions given to the first couple, Adam and Eve, after the garden experience. The instructions were, number 1, multiply. It's a lonely world with 2 people. But the second instruction was interesting, and I try to find ways to translate it when I lecture in other countries. And it says to be fruitful or productive. First, you need to produce enough to survive. If a man is by himself and he produces enough for himself, that's called self-care. Then, if he wants to live a higher life, a companion or get married, he now must produce enough for himself and his wife. Somebody says, well, why work that hard when you could just take care of yourself? But that's okay. This is not a moral question. This is a question of, do you wish to live a higher life, a better life? And almost everyone would agree that would be a better life, to be with somebody. But now comes the challenge now to produce enough for 2 instead of for 1. Now they decide to have children. Now the man must figure out a way to produce enough for himself and his family, his children. And the question always is, why do that? Why not just take care of himself? And said, this is self-care. First to survive, then to live a better life. He pays that extra price of producing more than he needs for himself so that he can live a better life. Then the next challenge is that the end of it? And the answer is no. Why wouldn't the man think of ways now to produce more than he needs for himself and his family? And the question is, why work that hard? Why do that? And the answer is to be generous, which is an even higher life. Then I take it 2 more steps. Why not accept the challenge to produce much more than you need for yourself and for your family? Somebody says, well, that's ridiculous. Why do that? You don't understand. It's to live a higher life. Then I take it 1 step further, to produce far more than you need. What a way to live. Extraordinary. It's okay to live an ordinary life and a pretty good life, but how about an extraordinary life? To produce far more than you need for yourself and your children. Suppose you make $10 million a year and you and your family only need $3 million. Some families are more expensive than others, but let's say $3 million would pretty well cover most every family. Now you've got $7 million to give, to share. How about that kind of life? It's called extraordinary. To produce more and far more than you need for yourself.
A high-quality life is a life lived with style. Jim calls it lifestyle, how to get joy from your substance. A life that is aligned with values does not have to be dull and boring. Quite to the contrary, Jim Rohn calls lifestyle an art, the art of living well. It is an art that can be developed in almost any circumstances to expand your celebration of all that life has to offer.
It's best to earn some of that early money in lifestyle. Go to the movies. Take 2 vacations instead of 1. Just some little extra things that now the family gets inspired by this new commitment to earning more and becoming more and making the studies and learning the skills and whatever you have to do. Now you make it more worthwhile for the family by thinking of lifestyle changes that now become very exciting. Go to the concert. My parents said, don't miss anything. Don't miss the play, the music, the songs, the performances, the movie, whatever's happening. At age 93, my father, before he died, if you would have called him at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, he wouldn't be home. He's at the rodeo, he's at church, he's at the play, the performance, he's watching the kids play softball at age 93. So he did it as well as taught it. Don't miss anything. So those changes in lifestyle. When I started making some extra money, I opened up an account for my wife, and I called it No Questions Asked account. And I said, here is the checkbook for a new account, and it's called No Questions Asked. I'll just keep putting money in there, and you spend it for whatever you wish. It was life-changing. It wasn't a fortune, but she didn't have to ask anymore for money, because I could sense that it was a little embarrassing at times when she had to ask me for money. I thought, well, that's not good. So the first time I get a chance, here's what I'm going to do. And sure enough, I did it. No questions asked to count. You can't believe what that did. It was absolutely amazing. Anything you can think of that helps to change lifestyle is called making a living, but also making a life. Lifestyle, social, friendships, church, community, country, all those things that make a composite of our overall life. You start furnishing that with new vigor, vitality, money, whatever it takes to expand your life into what I call the good life, as well as economics. It doesn't take a lot. How much is a movie, right? Even for a person of modest means, $6 or something. Costs $60 million to make it and only costs $6 to see it. Part of it's just simply priority. Less soft drinks, more movies. Everybody's got the money. The story I tell of the lady who invested the dollar, and now she's a millionaire. So she had the dollar. It depends on where you put it. I now have these 4-hour lunches with my grandchildren, who are now 15 and 16, talking about everything. Out on the veranda, La Playa Hotel in Carmel, overlooking the ocean and the gardens. A 4-hour lunch. How much can you eat? Just a few people? But at the end of 4 hours, you're richer than when you sat down in terms of exchanging ideas, confidences, experiences, plans for the future, accomplishments. It's exciting. Probably nothing more rewarding than conversation. Sometimes you need to be alone. For all of my busy life, from Milan to New York to Paris to Mexico City to the giant cities of the world, I do seek solitude, but only for short periods of time, not long periods of time. But it is important for me to get away, think and ponder and wonder about my life and what's happening, what's going on, where to go from here. But some of the greatest rewards are in personal conversation. I've got some close friends, some mentors that have been around for the last 50 years for me. That a couple of hours of conversation, and you've got enough to feast on and live on for a while till you can have the next one. But it's easy to be a little too busy to go to lunch with a close friend and not miss it, or spend an evening with 2 or 3 families and enjoy life. How much is a concert? $25, $30, $40? Somebody says, well, poor people can't afford to go to a concert. No, it's only 8 Coca-Colas. It just depends. So you save up your soft drink money and you do some special things. So lifestyle, to live well, doesn't cost a fortune. All it costs is paying attention. Then the little dramas. I told a story about calling my father after my mother died. My father lived another 8 years, and he spent 1 more year out on the farm, which I still have up in Idaho, where I make a little wine and grow a few crops and live the good life overlooking the Snake River. But my father spent 1 more year the nights, and then he got a little lonely, and so I got him a place in this little farm village close by, so he could at least go there, spend the night, have breakfast, and then jump in his car and go back to the farm. But then there's a place close by called the Decoy Inn, little cafe, where my father most every morning would have breakfast with the farmers. So I'd call him while he's having breakfast. Just takes 10 minutes. Papa, I'm in Israel. And they'd bring him the phone, and we'd have this conversation. And he'd talk real loud so they could all hear the details. They gave me a reception last night on the rooftop. And he'd say, reception on the rooftop. Underneath the stars, Papa. He says, underneath the stars. So everybody gets in on this little conversation he's having with me. Now he's got a story to tell for the rest of the day. My son called me from Israel, and I know he had to get up in the middle of the night. Makes a much more special day. Only takes 10 minutes. Easy to, easy not to. I'd send him these postcards from around the world, and he'd save them, show them around. When I'd get back, some of them had a little butter and jelly on them, right, where he'd passed them around at breakfast. And then he'd get to retell the story. I was showing these postcards to my friends, and here's what happened, and here's what they said, and it keeps this lively interchange between father and son going. I took him back where he was born in my motorhome one year. Odessa, Washington. Went to the newspaper office, and he went back into the vaults in this little community, and he found some newspapers dated 1903, when my father was born. So we went through them. No record of his birth. I said, you were born out in the country, Papa. There's no record of your birth here. Like me, I was born at home. Then we went back to Wheeler, where he last went to school. When they had a place in town, they used to have a dry wheat farm, a couple of thousand acres in Moses Lake. But we went back to Wheeler, where he last went to school. He used to arrive early, before the teachers got there, and lit the fires in this old stove, 1 or 2 room school. And it was gone. Tried to locate the place where they might have lived and couldn't find it. It's probably gone. The only thing left in Wheeler was a church and a bar. And my dad says, well, that's a pretty good combination. Get messed up in one place and get straightened out in the other. I said, that's good, Papa. But anyway, to keep that kind of relationship alive, my parents were extraordinary, and the little things you can think of, right, that makes lifestyle unique. It's not a matter of cost. It's really more a matter of time than cost.
Jim's ultimate goal in this session is to be sure, in the process of changing any area of your life, that you consciously create the life that you want, and that you get great enjoyment from it, to appeal to the very best side of your nature.
Everybody has a different temperament and personality, and it's something that has to be developed, over a period of time. If you're too shy, you should really learn to push that into a small corner and speak up more. If you're a little too loud, maybe you should, calm down just a little bit. But we shouldn't try to just radically become someone else. But that's what sophistication and civilization is supposed to do, is to make us civil. And to be civil in a civil society, we all must deal with that dark side of our nature, the positive side of our nature. And it isn't that it ever gets done or finished, but that we should suppress those things that would cause us trouble, not only within ourselves, but cause us trouble with someone else. It's a never-ending challenge, but to still always be who you are. But who we are is, you might describe it as dual nature. And the key to life is to become the most of the good in you and the least of the bad. So it's important also to see if you can't work on those things that, are not in your best interest, both in your thinking process and developing your plans for the future, or in your process of working with others, sitting at a conference table or being involved in an enterprise. That's a constant. When some become wealthy now, they have to deal with ego that didn't show its sort of ugly head until, the money was flowing like a river, and now this little gremlin on one shoulder whispers and says, now's the time, right, to, conquer the world and let everybody know you're the master. And sure enough, it can cause all kinds of problems. One of the greatest difficulties of wealth is, handling this issue of ego and keeping it under control. So we need to reveal who we are, but we also need to master the art of who we are presented as our best, as it serves us and our children, as it serves us and our friends, as it serves us in our business. But it is a constant and it never ends. But if we can make a personal appeal to ourselves, I want to constantly work on developing the positive side of my nature and do my best to suppress that darker side that would not allow me to be most of what I can possibly be. I think that's what's important. When a president becomes president, it's interesting, what ego might do. Old Testament says this king came to power and he was a good king. Then the next king came to power and he was a bad king. And that's always happening, whether it's good king, bad king, or whether it's inside of our own head. We all have to deal with that. But you might make this note, it's part of the great adventure to deal with it, to become civilized, and to not allow ourselves as we journey along to become uncivilized in our behavior, in our language, in our style, and to try to keep that balance going consistently and present that as the best part of us as who we are, and then let people see that.
Part of creating a life worth living is pursuing a job or career that you have always dreamed about. Some authors call this pursuing your passion. Yet Jim feels that the constant obsession with your passion can distract you from beginning your success journey. Better to start right where you are and let your passion find you.
I think trying to find your passion is a little bit, maybe too strong a word. Greatly desiring to be extremely successful, I think probably is sufficient. But if you can find something you really love to do and can do it with great passion, I think that's fantastic. But I think being grateful probably is number one. If you've got a job, you got to be grateful. Say, this isn't the greatest job in the world, but even if it's a transitional job getting you where you want to go, you got to be grateful. You don't have to love your job or be passionate about your job, just passionate about staying steady, working hard, learning skills, doing this job so well that the next one will be even better, and taking such good care of this opportunity, another one will present itself. Sometimes the man says, well, if I had a good job, I'd really pour it on. But I've got this lousy job, so I just goof off. So that's not the attitude nor the philosophy. Say, if you'd really pour it on, this one, even though it may not be the best job in the world, if it furnishes a living, you have to be grateful. If it takes care of you and your family, you got to have gratitude. Not necessarily passion, but gratitude. But I think if you have an extreme desire to wish to be successful, so you can accomplish all you wish to accomplish, be as generous as you'd like to be as strong as you'd like to be in terms of financial strength, involved in entrepreneurial projects that you can't do without, let's say, sizable money, so you go for that. To me, I think that's sufficient. I think if you say you have to find your passion, people find that a little bit confusing. Where would I find it, and what could I be passionate about? I guess you could start with saying, I'm passionate about providing unusual success for myself and for my family, so that my children will say in the years to come, we had the most incredible life together as a family. Then I think the key is to let what you want to accomplish, let that grow. Where at first this is as far as you can see, but if you'll do that, you can say, wow, maybe I could multiply by 2, by 3, and expand my vision, accomplish a lot more. If you have an enterprise, maybe you could make it stronger and better and more far-reaching. Let that happen. It's difficult to figure it all out and then get that done. We just don't do that. We can figure out the next little part of our life that we can see, and then we can say, well, eventually I'd like to have, and let those dreams linger somewhere in your consciousness. I say make a list of all the things that would give you the most incredible life. Just make that list. What would do it for you? over the next 10, 20 years. Places to go, things to see, people to meet, books to read, skills to learn, investments to make, being generous. Just make lists of all the things that you think would make for you a really fantastic life. And at first, don't worry about how to get it. Just let your mind run free and think what would really do it for you. And then just begin. And let those lists alter. Because sometimes you start for something and then you say, sure enough, I thought this was really going to be everything I wanted. Sure enough, this is really not it. Or I can see now, long before you are going to accomplish it, I'm investing too much money and time and effort. So you change. And anytime you want, you can tear up your whole list and start all over again. Some people say, I made the list so I have to accomplish it. And the answer is no, you don't have to do it. It's your life. It's your list. You can turn it upside down, right side up, scratch off some things, put some new things on, or start all over again. Don't let it become an obsession. Let it become an enticement. Better to be enticed than obsessed. Or we might invest too much effort and time in something that's not really going to turn out to be as great as we thought it would. The old prophet said, sometimes things that taste good in the mouth later turns bitter in the belly. We think, oh, this is it. Sure enough, it was a bit of an illusion. Don't cry for me, Argentina, right? One of the lines is, they are illusions. They're not the solutions they promise to be. But that's a learning experience. And we can only be affected by what we see. Someone says, well, you shouldn't have devoted so much of your time and energy. But if that's what you could see, only that at the moment, we're going to do it, and we just learn as we go. We need a collection of experience to give us good data on what to do, what not to do. Sometimes you need more experience to make a wiser decision. If a person says, well, I've eaten junk food now for a week, but look how strong and healthy I am, see, that's a delusion. 1 week is not going to give you the right kind of information about how you feel, whether it's a good idea to continue or not. You need a lot more experience than that to decide whether or not it's good for you. I used this illustration once with the candle lit, talking about having enough experience to make wise decisions. And I said, would all of you agree that the fire will burn my finger? Let's say that I don't know that, but you're trying to teach me now. If you put your finger in the flame, it will burn your finger. I say, okay, I'm ready to try it. So I put my finger in the flame and take it out, fairly quickly, in and out, right in the flame and out. And I say, look, my finger's okay. Let me try it again. And I put my finger in the flame and take it right out. And I say, my finger's okay. Where did you get this idea that the flame would burn my finger? And they say, no, Mr. Rohn. You can't just go like this really quick and put your finger and take it right out of the flame to know that the flame will burn your finger. You've got to leave your finger in there just a little longer. I say, oh yes, then I need a little more experience to make a wise decision. I say, well, I've taken this cocaine and, I feel okay. But see, you don't know the end of that road. This is only the beginning when it seems to be okay. But you need more experience. Now, if you don't have any personal experience on cocaine, then you've got to go to someone who has and says, look, 20 years of my life was wasted, and I finally turned it around. Like some of the old rock and rollers that have turned it around. Amazing. I was in Paris the other day, had 20,000 in my class. Also in town were the Rolling Stones, who rolled into Paris and stopped for a while, with Mick Jagger and all the rest. These guys got through those treacherous days of drugs and alcohol and somehow made it. A lot of them didn't make it. Boy George said, I woke up one day and all my friends were dead. That's enough experience. So maybe if you haven't had enough, you're just getting started, but you better check out somebody that's been down that road for maybe 4 or 5 years or 3 or 4 years or 20 and make a judgment based on a lot more data than just trying something to say, hey, it seems to be okay. I think that's wise advice.
Creating a rich and fulfilling life based on your values is such a broad topic that it's difficult to cover in 2 short sessions. If you're looking for a way to bring all of these ideas together, there's no better place to turn than this next segment, Jim Rohn's short list on the good life.
Here's the short list on a good life. Number 1, productivity. If you don't produce, you won't be happy. Here's number 2, good friends. The greatest support system in the world is good friends. You got to work on that. Don't be careless here. Friends are those wonderful people who know all about you and still like you. Here's next, spirituality. I'm not asking you to be a believer. I am a believer that humans are more than an advanced form of the animal kingdom. I'm a believer that we're a special creation. I don't ask you to be a believer, but here's what I do ask. If you are a believer, here's what you must do. Study, practice, and teach. Whatever's valuable to you, study, practice, and teach. Repeat it after me now. Again. Study, practice, and teach. Here's why. It builds the foundation that builds the country, that builds the nation, that helps us to compete among the nations of the world in the 21st century. And this is one of those subjects, to study, practice, and teach. Next, my parents taught, don't miss anything. Don't miss the game. Don't miss the performance. Don't miss the show, the movie. Don't miss the words. We're all inspired by the words. Elton John says she lived her life like a candle in the wind, never knowing who to cling to when the rains set in. You can't miss those lyrics. You can't miss the music. You can't miss the songs that nourish the soul. You can't describe how brief and fragile life is much better than that. George Harrison, one of the Beatles, sings, "If not for you, the winter would hold no spring. Couldn't hear a robin sing. I just wouldn't have a clue if not for you." Wow. You got to remember the words. The words that reflect the experience. Barbra Streisand sings, "It used to be so natural to talk about forever, but used to be's don't count anymore. They just lay on the floor till we sweep them away. You don't sing me love songs, you don't say you need me, and you don't bring me flowers anymore." Illustrative of all of our experiences. Winston Churchill said, "The truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it and ignorance may deride it, but in the end, there it is." You got to use that. Feast on someone else's comments. Because, see, you could stay up all night and not think of that. I'm asking you to do your research. I'm asking you, don't miss anything. Don't miss the play. Even the little small things, don't miss. The big things, don't miss. Don't miss, don't miss. It's part of living a good life. Here's why. Jot this phrase down. It'll serve you well forever. If you live well, you will earn well. If you live well, it'll show up in the texture of your voice. If you live well, it'll show up in your face. If you live well, it'll show up in the magnetism of your personality. If you live well. So don't miss the nourishment of all the things around you that could help you live a good life. Next is the inner circle. Take care of them, they'll take care of you. Inspire them, they will inspire you. Nothing more valuable than the inner circle. That's where the power to conquer the world comes from, the inner circle. If a father walks out of the house and he can still all day long feel his daughter's kiss on his face, he's a powerful man. That nourishment of the inner circle is so incredible. If a husband walks out of the house and all day long he feels the imprint of his wife's arms around his body, he's invincible. Who can touch him? One person caring for another, the old prophet said, is the greatest of virtues. There's many virtues and values, but the greatest is love, one person caring for another. Better to live in a tent on the beach with someone you love than to live in a mansion by yourself. People caring for people. And especially that inner circle where the power is so magnificent that if you draw from it, if you nourish it, and then it nourishes you. Now here's my last comment. Ask for God's help. We could all use a little help. But my whole seminar was what you can do. A man took a rock pile, turned it into a fabulous garden. Somebody came and saw it and said, "You know, you and the good Lord have this fabulous garden here." The gardener said, "I understand your point, but you should have seen it a few years ago when God had it all by himself." So we do play a part.
We conclude this powerful session on making a life, not just a living, by having Jim share his famous set of lessons he calls the 4 ifs that make life worthwhile. This was the framework for one of the very first talks Jim did over 41 years ago, and it contains a message that we need even more desperately today.
The first one is life is worthwhile if you learn. Of course, that's the beginning of being a civilized person, a person of accomplishment, is to learn. We go through those early grades in school. Part of the learning process, though, starts right before we go to school from our parents, mother, father, hopefully. I was very fortunate to have excellent parents who taught me well even before I started school. My mother taught me how to read and write before I went to school, so it made school a lot easier, and I enjoyed it all the years I went through high school, 1 year of college. But my parents gave me that great extra advantage from the things they taught me in those years before school. And then the rest of it is learning as you go, from school to enterprise, getting a job, learning what marriage is all about, the opportunity and responsibility, children, learning the possibilities. It's unique that the possibilities are always far more than we can imagine. So first we imagine the possibilities, then we imagine the possibilities that are possible for us. And I think we need both. Someone gives their testimonial and said, I started with this and I became wealthy, and if I can do it, you can do it. And they take us into a story of possibilities far beyond what we think we could possibly accomplish. But at least we can take from that testimonial their comment that if I can do it, you can do it. I started with nothing, and look what happened for me. You could do it. But on our part now, it's a matter of personal choice. But at least it gives us a glimpse into the full range of possibilities. The income level now in America is $5 an hour for, let's say, minimum wage, up to, top income last year, $68 million one person earned for 1 year. That's the full range of possibilities. Then we have to figure out on that full range of possibilities what's possible for us. Then you go as far as you can see at the moment. But accomplishment, it's just like ambition. Accomplishment helps you to see that much more. Once you've learned some skills, gotten some experience, you learn from that and you say, wow, maybe a couple of more skills and I could multiply my value by 2, by 3, by 5, plus my income, plus my ability to be influential, powerful, helpful. So it's true. Life is worthwhile if you learn. I say to the kids when I have a chance to lecture high school or college, nothing worse than being stupid. Make sure you get the information while you're here in school. You can sort through it later, throw some away, forget some, whatever, but make sure you get it. Being broke is bad, but being stupid is really bad. And what's really, really bad is being broke and stupid, I say. Nothing worse than that unless you're sick. Sick, broke, and stupid. And that's the ultimate, unless you're ugly. Ugly, sick, broken, stupid, life's most negative scenario. But from the kids to all of us, that's lesson number 1. You have to learn. Part of it we learn by trial and error. We do it wrong and learn to do it right. We think it's right and we work it and it doesn't work, so now we learn from that. Hopefully we learn fast, as quick as possible. But it's true. Life is worthwhile if you learn. Second, life is worthwhile if you try. Learn something and give it a try. See if you can do it. See if it'll work for you. We play the game to see if we can win. You can't just say win. Say, no, you got to try. Play the best you can. See if we can have a higher score than the other team when we finish, so we walk off winners. But if we lose a game, that doesn't mean we're losers. It only means we lost the game. So the key is to try it again. See if we can win next time. Put a better combination together. But the same is true economically, or a job, or employment, or enterprise. The farmer plants in the spring, takes care of it all summer. But at harvest time, a hailstorm comes along and beats his crop into the ground. which means now all is lost in terms of his harvest. So the question is, should he ever try again? And the answer is, of course, because the law of averages says more often than not, if you plant in the spring, you'll have a harvest in the autumn. More often than not, which is pretty good odds. Better than Las Vegas. But it's not a guarantee. Every time you plant in the spring, you will have a harvest in the fall, but more often than not you will. So of course, even if it was all lost, he would go back and try again in the spring. Not a guarantee, but a promise and an opportunity. And that's all of us can do, is to try our best with whatever opportunities come our way. Part of it's learning to recognize opportunity, take advantage of it. Chance to meet somebody and we let it slip by and, wow, that could have been the chance of a lifetime, could have been an open door. So we try to learn not to miss opportunities, to try it. Then when the record book is finished on your life, let it show your wins, let it show your losses, but don't let it show you didn't try. See what you can do. So life is worthwhile if you learn. Second, if you try. Third, life is worthwhile if you stay. Some people plant in the spring and leave in the summer when it gets hot. The weather's not to their liking, and the weeds are too tall, and the work is too hard. But you got to stay. My advice is to stay at least through the cycle. Doesn't mean you have to stay forever, but at least if you've planted in the spring, see it through to the harvest and see what comes of it. It's like going to a game. Stay till it's over, I say. It's good training. Even though your team is behind, if you walk out and your team is behind, it's really not very polite. So well, they're losing, we're out of here. You know, if you support your team, you probably wouldn't leave till it was over. Even if your team is sort of hopelessly behind, that's good practice. Who are these people that leave early and spill their soft drink down your neck and step on your shoes and trying to get out early to beat the traffic? If you lay the foundation, at least see this project through, finish this one. Doesn't mean you have to build ever again, but at least if you've started this one, see if you can't accomplish this one, to stay through the summer, stay through the challenges, stay until at least this project is finished, and then make a decision on whether to plant again or whether to start another project or whether to do something again. Probably more marriages could be saved if they decided to stay at least a little longer, see if it could be worked out. Sometimes it might be as possible, but at least stay and try. See if there's another answer, another alternative, another way. And there usually is. So if you learn, if you try, and if you stay, my last one was if you care. And I came up with the phrase, if you care at all, you'll get some results. If you care enough, you could get incredible results. Part of the miracle of the human capability and possibility is the ability to care, to love, to truly care about someone else, or to care about the enterprise, or to care about your country, or to care about your village, or to care about your friendship. Care enough to repair what goes wrong. Care enough to confront the challenges, to make something better. Great human possibility to care. Whether it's our children, whether it's our friendships, whether it's our duties to our country or our community. To care about the future of your country, to care about the future of your life, your family, to care what happens. Easy to be tempted not to care, especially if you're a bit of a distance from it. I made a trip last year to India, my third trip to India. It's hard to comprehend a country with so much poverty and extreme challenges for human beings. There might not be anything you can do personally except maybe offer your prayers, but at least to care about what happens, with hope that their life will be better. They'll find ways and means of feeding the poor, inspiring the children, giving hope to the father who wants to take care of his family, whether it's in some remote village or some dusty New Delhi street. To care about the world, which direction it's going. When the world is half slave and half free, that's a difficult time. Abraham Lincoln said, "Since I would be no one's slave, I will be no one's master." That's good caring. Caring put in philosophical terms. And then care about each other, especially the people you work with and you're close to. Because it takes everybody. One person doesn't make an economy. One person doesn't make an institution, an enterprise. It takes all gifts blended together to make something work, and learning to appreciate each person's value. I said to my audience yesterday in Colorado Springs, we had about 1,000. I said it took everybody being here to make this occasion. Those who spread the word, said come and hear the man, me to fly in and show up, took a lot. Then when you walk into a seminar room where there's 1,000 people, you walk in by yourself. But when you walk away, you carry away with you the spirit of all the people, the reaction of all the people. Maybe you had a chance to meet somebody or several people. You walk away with their testimonial or their good wishes. So when you walk in, you only bring one person, but you make the contribution to the whole. Then what's the big factor, the multiplying factor, is that the whole makes a contribution to you as an individual. So by contributing only one person, which is you, but your handshake, your smile, your participation, your reaction, but then you walk away with the substance of everybody, which makes you much richer than when you walked in. People have often asked, what would you like to be remembered about you? I've been given so many extraordinary opportunities, and I would like to know that I've made a contribution. And if when I'm gone it says, he made a major contribution to the lives of millions, that'd be an extraordinary thing to say about me. But I think as long as toward the end of your life you find yourself respected by your family and your close friends, that's probably just about as good as it gets. They know who you are probably better than anyone else. They know your dignity. They know your service. They know your dreams. They know your commitments. They know the hard work you've done. They know the contribution you've made better than anyone else. And if you have their respect toward the end of your life, family and close friends, whether the world recognizes it or not, or sees it or not, or whether they build a statue in your honor or fail to put your name in the Hall of Fame, it really wouldn't matter that much.